I hope you guys can hear me now. I'm sorry, we had some trouble with the WebEx to start up. It's a perfect system, but sometimes it can fail a little bit. Thanks for hanging in there. We really appreciate it. I'm not able to send you messages yet, so I cannot reply to your Q&A. But I'm sure our host, Damien Farrell of eFactor, is able to answer your questions. And it doesn't matter for now anyway, because I will answer the Q&A at the end of the session. I do see your questions, though, so I can answer verbally all your questions. So let's start. Sorry again for the delay. Thanks for hanging in there. Today we're going to talk about bootstrapping, an alternative to funding. Just a little introduction before we start. For people that don't know eFactor, eFactor is a smart network that matches entrepreneurs with the very people who can help them grow. If you have completed your profile and or your company profile fully online, we automatically match you with others which are relevant, from partners to investors, from coaches to customers, from all over the world and within your local environment. And with real-life networking and with other social media communities, you get out of it what you put into it. So definitely pursue these connections. I myself already got some value partnership from it, both my funding partner in Holland as well as the business development partner in India. eFactor is the largest entrepreneurial network in the world with 1.5 million members over 220 countries around the world. We offer you network, knowledge, event, and every business resources against discounts you need to succeed for your business. So go online, fix your profile, and hope we will see you there. So let's start about today, bootstrapping. Starting a business is very simple. You just need three things: an idea, people, and money. The first one looks simple. You need an idea, one that fulfills a need, solves a problem. Without an idea, there's no business. However, just having an idea is not the end game. It actually is just a start. A lot of entrepreneurs are so full of their idea that they just start running around, back and forth, shooting with hill, setting out 20 trial balloons. I believe in focus, because these people fail to see that it is your point of departure for a very lengthy development process towards a mature business. It has to overcome some complications and challenges before it's ready for funding and validated by the market and its customers. Commitment is therefore a key aspect of starting a company. The other aspect is also not as simple as it seems. One of the most important things of being a successful entrepreneur is a solid and committed team around you, from partners to coaches, experts, beta testers, and so on. eFactor can help you with that, actually. You cannot be and do everything by yourself. You need counterparts. So that starts with beginning to know what you are capable of and what you're not capable of. Are you good in sales? Then get a finance partner. Successful high-growth companies consist generally of 2 to 3 partners with complementary skills, and where at least 1 or 2 of them have several years of relevant experience within the market they are planning to operate in. Also, they try to develop your products in-house and avoid teams with all advisory skills, like lawyer, accountant, consultant. We need people with real skills. So don't underestimate forming a team. It's a very difficult process. It takes time and energy to build trust. 3 out of every 4 partnerships break up one way or another. I strongly advise to get a coach on board during this time. Again, eFactor and EQ Mentor, one of our business units, really can help you with that. Because coaches, they can help you form a solid team and have an objective view on the situation, where you're heading, where you're going, and so on. And make sure everything is signed off in a contract and checked by a lawyer when you go into partnerships. The last one for building a company, but definitely not the least important, is money. In the end, everything is about money. How much equity does each team member get, and how much is everyone able to invest in the company? Don't forget to discuss how long everyone is able to do without or with a very little amount of money. Calculate this detailed as possible how much capital is needed in which phase of your company, and start early with searching for it. On average, it takes about 1.5 years nowadays to find capital for the first round. Second round, when of course the business plan are still on course and you're already funded, because it's the second round, are easier. And in a later stage, it's also easier to get banking loans in because you have cash flows and assets to securitize the loan. Finding capital is a very difficult process, and most entrepreneurs, unfortunately, will not ask friends, families, and fools to help out. Crowdfunding is a good alternative nowadays. Definitely take a look at that one. So before we go into bootstrapping and what it actually is, let me explain how the funding world looks like and how it correlates with the life of a startup. It normally all begins with an idea which is developed into a prototype. Then it will be launched and hopefully growth will appear, which then again gets your company in a more mature and predictable stage in the end. Capital connected to these stages are generally referred to as pre-seed capital, seed capital, and later stage capital and growth capital before you go into public markets in the form of an initial public offering, an IPO, a reverse takeover on the stock exchange. The other option is, of course, an exit and sell your company to a strategic partner. The more your company develops, the more successful track record it has in the form of customer and market validation of your product. The less likely it is your company will go bankrupt, right? Or insolvable, as we finance people like to call it. Meaning, as a pre-seed capital is. And remember from all the other webinars I gave the past 5 years, high risk is high return. So early funding providers also want to see a higher return as a compensation for the risk they are taking. Different forms of risk also mean different forms of funding providers, funding providers active in each state of the startup lifecycle. This is important to know, so that if you have an idea or are still in the beta phase of developing your product, that it's not wise to spend time on funding providers only providing growth capital, for example. I'm not going to discuss this slide further. We discussed this extensively on a webinar on funding and investment, and I will send later on an email to all the attendees with all the links to all the webinars I ever gave, and of course also this presentation, including notes and so on. And if you have any questions, do not hesitate to contact me on the email. You will have it then, of course. So these fundings can be divided, the sorts of fundings there exist can be divided in two forms. You either have debt or equity. It's simple. And then there's bootstrapping. Let me discuss. I think we all know what a loan is. You borrow money which you have to pay off in a future date, and the giver wants a fee in return, right? The fee is likely to be interest. We have also equity, which is an unconditional money in the sense that the giver doesn't want money in return, but the part of ownership in the company, and that ownership is called equity. The last thing I want to point out is bootstrapping. This is what we're going to talk about today. This is a form of funding your own business, which also comes in debt or equity form, but it comes from you and not from an external party unless it is given. So debt and loan you can get, like you see in the slide, from bank loans or your father or whatever, and equity the same. It comes from external parties. And if you look at these three forms of funding, the most likely providers are stated in the boxes on this slide. For debt, that will be friends, family, and fools, angel investors, peer-to-peer crowdfunding, which is also, we will touch upon that a little bit later. And we have webinars on crowdfunding. A commercial bank, of course, is a good loan provider. If you want to learn more about debt, this was also discussed extensively in webinars on capital management, which include debt management and inclusion of covenants in debt contracts and so on, and how to manage your creditors and so on. But again, I will send all these links to these webinars and the notes tonight after this webinar, so you can immediately download all the other webinars and related topics. For equity, providers can be also friends, family, and feuds, but for example, incubators are very popular, like accelerators, equity-based crowdfunding, angel investors, venture capital, private equity. You need to be a little bit bigger for private equity and venture capital though, but they do, provide money for equity in return. For bootstrapping, you can look at your own income and savings, revenue to reinvest, friends, family, and fools who are just giving you money, pre-filled donation, crowdfunding, grant funding or government grants, university funds, competitions, and so on. Everything which is either your own money or someone who's just giving it without anything in return, no fee, no interest, no equity. I mentioned 3 forms of crowdfunding here. Crowdfunding is not a form of funding. Let me be very clear on that. It's a way of getting funding. I can still provide you with all the forms of funding from debt to equity, and it can also include types of friends, angel investors, and even capital list. They're all included in crowdfunding. But again, see our crowdfunding webinar on this one. So why bootstrap? Why do not go for a loan or for equity, an equity trade? So let me show you this very, very depressing slide. And I just want to share this with you because it's important. 85% of ideas do not start up. 50% of the startups are not alive after 5 years. On average, it takes 3.8 companies to be successful. And I'm not talking about flying a private jet then. I'm just talking about having a decent average income. Less than 10% of the startups get funded with equity. 0.03% there will be a venture capital investing in startups, and 2% by informal investors. Let me be clear on that. Venture capital does not, I repeat, does not, on average, invest in startups which are not break even. It's very rare. Although they say they do, I hardly saw them do it. It takes about 1.5 years, 32 versions of your business plan, and speaking to 20 investors at least 3 times to get funding if you're the lucky 10%. 65% of entrepreneurs have personal loans within 2 years. 55% of startups with angel funding will get venture capital funding. 10% with no angel funding will get venture capital funding. And 1 to 100 companies having a meeting with venture capital, so in your break-even, will get funded. So that's quite depressing, right? But good ideas in combination with even better execution will always survive. The only thing you have to do is preparation. As always, prepare. I cannot state that enough. But it helps if you bootstrap your company. So what is it exactly? Bootstrapping is self-financing your company. It's not that it's really a form of funding like debt or equity. I see it more as a way of living, running your business lean and mean. Personally, I think you should always be bootstrapping as much as possible, even in your personal life. Even if you have enough capital, it's a mentality of life. Bootstrapping includes financing growth from previous cash flows and funds like income from other jobs, business. The thing is, you obviously have cash flows, especially when you have run out of your savings. Therefore, starting companies in services or consulting areas are more likely to be able to bootstrap from the start because they produce revenues right away. They can send invoices, services. They themselves are the product, their so far as their credential already. As a product company, you still have to create and develop that. However, bootstrapping, besides running your company from your own funds, also running your company mean and lean. Watch cost and cash flows, outflows very carefully. A big disadvantage of bootstrapping is that you lack the extra money to really push your product forward quickly. Competition, who is able to raise funding and invest heavily, can therefore be quicker to develop new products, market their products quicker, and expand to other regions faster. However, you learned from my previous webinars on fundings and whatever, that companies that have sharp competition in very dynamic markets and are also scalable, meaning not a consulting business company, but for example, a tech company, are more attractive for external funding anyways. The condition of being an attractive investment you can find in a documentation of the related webinar under resources. Again, I will send the links later tonight. But bootstrapping for service company or people who just send invoices by the hour is easier because you are the product. But it doesn't mean that product companies or tech companies or scalable companies, whatever you want to call them, are not able to bootstrap. So why bootstrap? Bootstrapping creates value in the sense that it's funded by yourself. No equity left the company, and knowledge remains within the business. If the plan or idea fails, this significantly reduces the risk for investors when it was launched a lean and mean way. Again, bootstrapping is a way of living, not a way of funding. So even if you have external funding parties, you should still bootstrap. Entrepreneurs that finance themselves with their own funds tend to be more cautious about their spending than entrepreneurs that receive external funding. Another big advantage of bootstrapping. In addition, being more conscious about cost makes entrepreneurs also more focused on their operational side of their business and therefore have a closer relationship with existing customers, for example. And believe me, your investors will like it. It gives you a better ability to understand problems and define good solutions if you're more in contact with your investors and your customers. Bootstrapping entrepreneurs are more in control, as research shows. And let's be honest again, only a couple % gets external funding. You simply do not have any choice because 90% does not get external funding. But still, 50% of the companies survive the 5 years. So the best way to understand the concept of bootstrapping is by simply showing an example, I guess. Let me go into a case study about a Dutch company which is called Sinbit. Sinbit is a Dutch equity-based crowdfunding platform. They created the total value platform, which is, when it comes to book value, $2.7 million US. However, they only paid $230,000. How did they do that? This means that their total bootstrapping profit was $2.4 million US. So somehow with $230,000, they were able to create a platform which is in their bookings, in their assets, active side of their balance sheet for $2.7 million. How did they do that? So they had an accountant which gave 500 hours of advice, which was a friend, and like a dear friend, and 500 hours for 280 euros, which is about what, $330. It was a pretty senior accountant, and he liked the idea and wanted to help them. So that was a value of 140,000 euros, about $180,000. The same with the lawyer, actually. 170 hours of advice, it saved them $20,000, or they only paid $20,000 for something which was $50,000. They had a technology team. What they actually did, they looked at a lot of crowdfunding websites, made a mock-up, and learned from every crowdfunding website already out there, and really made into PowerPoint what they want to have. So we call it a mock-up, then change that for their own ideas, and every PowerPoint slide was a website slide, so to speak, or a website page. It saved them $100,000 on time and therefore in hours, which was great. Marketing, they used affiliate model, social media, free publicity. Do not forget that Traditional media is also free, and funny thing is, because of the whole social media hype, people forget that still, until today, when you're pressed in the papers with a good article, or you're published in the papers with a good article, that is valued so much more in credibility. That hasn't changed. And the funny thing is, so if you just call them and you have an angle on a certain topic, so not self-promotion on your company or your business yourself, but you have an angle on a topic which is related to your business, you will get the free publicity in traditional media also. So they only spend 5,000 euros, and they estimate that it's created a value for 500,000 euros if they would have paid for all these media standings. In the beginning, they did not pay out salary. They really, their private life, their own life was really paid either by their partners or, by their savings. So the whole team did that, actually. So a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, always, if you start a business, make sure you have some savings for at least 1 or 1.5 years to go without a salary. So they did that, so that's another 600,000 euros. And they had some celebrities and specialists in the board of advisory. So, and what they did, they invited them for dinner, which cost $1,200, which was 2 dinners in the end. And they had that the deal that if the investor would get another investor in, they would get a discount for the price. So these are all kind of things you see that the value that it got was significantly higher than actually the cash out the company had. So this created the 2.4 million bootstrapping profit they in the end had. And you just have to think about this very creative. If you are an accountant, for example, and your website designer needs some help, maybe he can design a website for you, and then you can do his bookkeeping. That's also sort of barter deal. So there are a lot of things. Or maybe partner up with companies that have the same target group, and you create an event or a round table, and then you all speak in half an hour on your specific business or your specific topic within the business, or a trend, or technology development, and so on, and invite all these people, and then you share the cost in doing this event because you all have the same target customer group. So be creative on that. It's just an example. So what to conclude from this case study? Let me get a sip of water. As always, and you know me by now, I guess, preparation is key. I really believe that. Write a solid business plan for yourself. Explain your goal and how to get there. See your documentation on business plan writing in our resources or workshop section or knowledge section. In your business plan, you have to explain and create a solid business model where you truly solve a problem or fulfill a need. Be very specific to yourself on how you're going to make money and where the costs are generated. Be clever on this. Calculate everything through and create a month-by-month cash flow statement. Be familiar with numbers and accounting. Again, we also have a big budgeting and forecast documentation on that, how to do that. I will send the links again in your email to you tonight. Be smart and creative on cash outflows. It is really necessary. Are there ways around it than, just paying cash for it? Can you get your network event to increase your customer pipeline sponsored instead of funding it yourself, for example? Or partner up, the example I just giving. More examples we will share later on, actually. And make sure to pick low-hanging fruits first. Pick your battles carefully. Always think about the fact that every minute spent on one thing cannot be spent on another thing. You cannot be in the supermarket and in the library in the same time, right? So think about what the result is of your activity today and when and how it's going to make money to make up for your time spent on this today. Opportunity costs, we call them. Costs that are no cash out now, but are costs because you spend time on them. and it's choice. You could have also spent time on something else. They are truly key. They define your focus. Bootstrapping is about running your company lean and mean, as less cost possible. Hold 1 second. So sorry for that. There was this technical thing and I had to react really quickly on that. Bootstrapping is about running your company lean and mean against as less cost as possible. You have to learn to push yourself, stretch yourself, be a true salesman and a go-getter, and make sure that, you know, the factor, the X factor that everyone gives you because you're starting up and everyone thinks you're brave and so on, it actually gives you an X factor that people are willing to help you out, help you out. They want to see you succeed. So take advantage of that, actually. And also realize that everyone and everything is marketing. Everyone involved in one way or another can be a soldier of your brand. In addition, a lot of marketing can be done for free. Of course, everyone uses the standard social media route, like I was saying before, but most of you don't use it frequently or steadily and correlated enough on a daily basis. That has no use then. And that's why it doesn't work. In addition, don't forget, again, about the traditional media. Most of them are looking for a good story. Create that around you. Not about you, that is important, but around you. If something is in the news which you can relate to or you have knowledge of, just call them, send an email, share your thought on this item, or ask for an interview and become a guru and people will call you again. It really works. Free publicity is truly everywhere. So what I want to do the rest of our presentation, because I think now it's clear what bootstrapping is, it's being creative about the money you have and how you spend it. It's about barter deals, co-creation, it's about crowdsourcing, it's about thinking about other ways to get something done without spending money. It's about partnering up, sharing costs, all that kind of stuff to, in the end, lower your costs. And I actually think eVector is a great bootstrapping platform if you think about it, because we have so many startup and entrepreneurs in our community, we can get you great barter deals against discount, which again can easily save up to 10 to 20% of your overhead cost, which is great if you start up, right? It's a lot. So a couple of suggestions I want to give you, 9 suggestions to run your company mean and lean, to make sure you can do that. Suggestion 1 is know your numbers by heart. That is cost per sale, profit per sale, know your pipeline, repeat orders, conversion rate, gross profit, fixed cost per month, VAT return, budgets and forecast results compared to last year. Why do you need to know this? Because if you want to bootstrap, you have to be creative, and it's also done, you have to see opportunities and then react immediately. And you can only do that in a financial advantage, profitable way if you know your numbers. Suggestion 2, no cash outflows unless necessary. Is there really no alternative? Variable costs are key. Diminish overhead costs as much as possible, like I was saying, by sharing or buying accounting systems, or look for deals at their eVector web shop. Avoid capital expenses, no long-term contracts, watch your payroll, outsource all except your unique selling point, and barter deals. That is really think what you can give others, you know, before you spend cash on it. Funding sources where you don't have to pay interest and where you don't have equity, but you can use in a creative form. I'm not going to name them all, but just quickly, university and grants funding are really readily available. Often you have partners who help you search and apply for the right grants. They want 10 to 15% of your final received grant. No cure, no pay in most countries. Vendor funding, this is where you make maximum use of the credit terms you have established with your suppliers. If you manage to negotiate credit terms of 30, 60, or 90 days, you effectively got yourself an interest-free loan for that period. Creditors are a way of funding your daily operations, so really look into this. This is most useful if you're paid upfront by customers, so you can use any free credit period to fund further marketing or growth, right? When exploring this option, make sure you pre-agree the vendor payment terms and stick to them to build up trust. That is important. If you're giving your suppliers enough profits, you can, over time, negotiate longer payment terms. It's like how big corporates do it. They always have 90-day payments. So this approach has provided an alternative to bank funding for many, many entrepreneurs. Definitely do not forget that one. Invoice discount is where small companies sell outstanding invoices to the highest bidders. Various institutions that have signed up to the service. You upload an outstanding invoice, ideally one that is due from a customer with a good credit rating. The service provider bids on what percentage interest they will charge for the amount of capital advance to you. And you choose the best offer, of course. The typical advance is around 70 to 90%, and although that's not the 100% you would get if you have the customer paying you directly, but it is cash now, and sometimes that is important if you have to fund other stuff, right? Asset funding is also often forgotten. In the early days of starting your business, it's best to limit outright purchasing of equipment, vehicles, and other assets that tie up to useful capital. You can end up with rapidly depreciating assets, costing you money that could otherwise be used to generate sales, and that's really a waste. So rent, borrow, lease, or hire purchase equipment needed. You can, for example, borrow some smaller equipment as a favor and then leasing the more expensive items. But don't go into long-term contracts, but you know, you have to be flexible on these. So these are about funding sources, but I think most of them may make sense and you can always look them up. Crowdfunding should not be underestimated as a source of funding. It has been proven hugely successful if the marketing strategy around it is executed thoroughly. But then not the equity base, because then you're still giving away equity. Pre-sale donation and reward-based crowdfunding are platforms where you offer pre-sale or, for example, your new book when the required amount is raised so you can fund the publishing. Customers then get a discount when the book is marketed. It's also pretty good for your sales because you already create a pipeline. And this especially works for creative and consumer products, to be honest. Peer-to-peer lending is also on the rise. It allows individuals, from students to wealthy investors, to lend to small businesses, providing a better return for lenders than from a traditional bank account, and easier access to credit for business owners. It's an online marketplace where people lend to business. This is how it works. You apply online, and they check your credit score, just as a traditional bank does. This is no easy ride, though, because they need to be secure. Unless you have over 2 years trading history, you're unlikely to be accepted, to be honest. However, if you get through the application process, you are able to go live with your deal quickly and with your financials and business summary posted online for prospective lenders. Once you're on the site, there's a very high success rate for receiving funding from a database of thousands of registered investors. And why would they do this? The average default rate is low at 1.1%, and the interest rate is typically about 9% after the bidding process. For investors, this provides a much better return than putting money into a bank or building a society or whatever. And for entrepreneurs, the whole process can take between 4 to 14 days compared to the months it takes to secure lending from a traditional bank. You know how slow these guys are, right? So this is a good option if you have been trading for a few years and can show some kind of stability. Again, in our crowdfunding webinars, which eFactor has a lot, definitely see our events page on that. We talk a lot about crowdfunding and tips and tricks and do's and don'ts. So the next suggestion, number 5, the trick with patents and IP. Only 5% of all patents manage to return the investment made in them. This does not mean you should not protect your idea. This means you should think it through before you spend money on it. It's just as simple as that. Produce some visuals or a rough mock-up of your prototype or create a demonstration website. At the earliest stage, there is no need to get an expensive prototype made up. Just use your imagination and make use of the existing materials you have available to produce something that helps a person understand the benefits that your product or service offers, so it becomes more visual and it saves you money instead of, like, spending on a prototype. 2, also a good point, get out and talk to potential customers about what you want to produce or offer. Avoid the Kinderüberraschung effect or the surprise effect. Without it being tested, to avoid that people know about your client. You say, ta-da, here's my product, and everyone's, yeah, great. Well, if you would have produced it in yellow, then I would actually bought it. That's a waste, right? So don't do that. I believe in talking to potential customers, which are not your friend, which are not your families, but really true potential customers, to actually get them along the way. And in tech, we call that the beta testers, of course, and make them the pioneers. Speak to independent technical advisors, such as engineers, programmers, and other inventors, suppliers, and even, but not patent lawyers this stage. Ask them how feasible it is to produce and scale your idea. Also ask them how easy it would be to copy your idea, for example. Often, one small change in a look or a size or mechanism of an invention is enough for someone to copy your idea without infringing the patent. Many ideas that get patented at huge costs are quickly copied with just a slight adjustment to the patent application, and that makes the original patent worthless, and that's such a shame. So when you have covered these steps, think again. Do you still want to go for IP, intellectual property protection? Is your idea worth thousands of pounds and months of years of personal commitment? Would it just be better to get your product to market quickly and start building your business? Securing patents is not the only way to protect an idea. Sometimes a quick route to market is enough. Finally, if you decide you really need a patent, and only remember one thing from reading this, make sure you get a fixed fee agreement with your lawyer, because we all know how lawyers are, right? If you pay by the hour, it can be one of the quickest ways to burn through $50,000 for a patent. And, is that worth it for something which is so easily copyable, especially in tech? So file for a patent, but don't close it yet. If someone else comes along with the same idea, you get notified. You can then decide to finish off the patent process. And you can do this for a year and a half or something like that. So it's already, bought you a year and a half before you spend money out. Also a good bootstrapping way. Suggestion 6, leverage yourself and others, get a well-known coach. We already talked about the board of advisory. Remember in the Symbit case where they had celebrities and product specialists who could help in getting other investors in. Equity stake up to 5%, including vesting time, is normal for board of advisory. Brand association, get a big company on board or support you. This also, it's the same with board of advisories, of course. Discount for high-profile customers, to get a customer track record. Testimonials is also a good one. Use resources in your network, share housing, technology, contact, databases, distribution, communication channels, especially in all these work lounges nowadays where a lot of entrepreneurs are working. There are so many opportunities to barter services or to share costs, and especially when you're in an incubator program. They forget there are so many other companies around that can actually help you, and you can help each other. So really, for example, you do sales for the same target customers, and you know that already creates extra soldiers to get your product out there. So be creative about that and ask for help. Suggestion 7, power-free marketing. I think already we discussed it a little bit. You know, make it measurable though. That is because then you know if you're actually it's worth spending your time. Make sure and very concrete and clear what your unique selling point is. Be able to say that in one sentence. The joint ventures, sales. It's a numbers game. Trial balloons, free marketing. Well, you get the point. Social media, blogs, repeat customers, and so on. Ask testimonials from your customers, and there's all kind of free marketing. Suggestion 8: use everything that's for free, cheap, or discount. E-factor. We have a lot of knowledge on our knowledge base. We have a lot of resources against discount, which are useful for starting up your business. There's so many other entrepreneurs on our community. Definitely reach out for them. Here's some websites, and again, you know, I will send out this presentation tonight, so you will have these. You can get interns at all these stages, employees, barter and trade. Well, you know, give all these websites a look. It's just good. Suggestion 9, the last one. We're almost there. Don't forget to leverage E-Factor, which I already said. You can match with partners, investors, coach customers for free. You can profile yourself, market yourself, your company, your brand, your blogs. You know, and for your blogs, you can easily share them on other social media platforms. We have a lot of network events, hundreds around the world. We help with business development. You can find employees and interns, and there are like at least 325, I think nowadays even more, and over 1,500 or 2,000 blogs on relevant topics for entrepreneurs. Well, and you know, you can file your funding request for free, and we help you out on that. And then, you know, after you did your bootstrapping, your company became successful, and then of course you want to go into investors, because the good thing with bootstrapping is then you finance your market and your customer and your product validation yourself. And because you did that, you created your company value. And if you create company value, the investor is actually more confident that your product and your company and that you as an entrepreneur will be successful. So if you bootstrap successfully, the chances that you will get an investor in are way higher. Again, if you bootstrap successfully, the chances that you will get an investor in will be way higher. So sometimes it seems more a trend to just raise funding than it makes strategically sense. Finding funding takes a lot of time. What I was saying, 1.5 years, 32 versions of your business plan, speaking to 20 entrepreneurs 3 times, that's a lot of time. And a lot of time that you're not focused on building and creating the operations of your business. So if you want to build a shop around a corner, then the question is if you really should be bothering yourself with finding funding from angels and venture capitalists, which your first step should be bootstrapping until you are ready. So if these 10 points apply to you, then it makes sense to find funding externally. You experience an intense and increased competition, and therefore you could also need the support on the strategic path to choose and finding a solid network of partners. This will automatically increase your credibility with customers, of course, which you can exploit by extra product development and increased marketing and sales activities, both nationally and internationally. This means that you already should have an established and proven concept with a more or less predictable system that makes money, and hence this creates company value. And you just want extra money for personnel or employees to support all these plans and improve your governance of your companies as well as your organizational infrastructure to execute it all successfully. So all these 10 apply. Investors can be and will be interested. So try to bootstrap as long as possible. Hold on to your equity until you run out of funds or need acceleration. That's my main message, actually. And the funny thing is, these are the company who bootstrapped their way to success. And we all know them. Ben & Jerry's, IKEA, come on, IKEA is huge. eBay, also huge, HP. And of course, they got investors in later on. But, you know, if you Google these companies, put in eBay and then bootstrapping, you will find online all the case studies on how they did it. And with all different creative ideas, how these founders actually got their company up and running in the first years before they get internal investors, external investors on board. Definitely interesting to read about it. So remember, it's my main conclusion. Prepare, 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 because bootstrapping is a mentality. It doesn't matter how rich you are, you should not overconsume, you should not overspend more than you have. That is it for today. Again, sorry for the starting up. We normally don't have problems with the WebEx, but it's just, I guess, starting of the new year. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to contact me, eva@efactor.com or eva@efactor.com. I will send you a link shortly, or an email shortly in your private email with all the links of all the webinars and notes and audios and all the things I was talking about where you can find on eFactor the discounts and knowledge and resources and so on. And we are there to help you. We are your wingmen, so to speak. So I hope you enjoyed this webinar, and definitely see our event page for our next webinar. Thank you so much for joining, and wishing you all a great day or a great night, wherever you are in the world. Thank you again. Bye-bye.